everyone, my name's Christy. Welcome to my corner. Thank you so much for joining me today for FlossTube number 101. I'm in the 100s now, so that's very exciting and I'm happy to have you with me. This episode is going to have some stitching in it. I think I only have cross stitch. I think I only have cross stitch whips to discuss today. So I have some whips. I have a fully finished object. I have updates on a couple of stitch alongs, and I have a bunch of new people here. I had an uptick in subscribers, and I'm assuming it's because of Kelly from Animal Instincts, who just said such really nice things about me. I hope I can live up to the hype. I feel like I need to up my game, right? Because she's so lovely, right? I mean, she's just like a lovely person. So thank you, Kelly, for this shout out. And because I have a sort of an influx of new people, and I'm at 101, and it's been a while since I've really sort of talked about, like, introduced myself, I decided to do the Know Your Needleworker tag. So I'm going to start with that and then talk about my whips. I guess I just want to chat. It's been 2 weeks. It's been a difficult couple of weeks for work. I'll talk about that at the end. I think I just said that. This is my second time doing the intro, so I don't actually remember. But before we get to any of that, I want to welcome my new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me on my crafty and artistic adventures. And welcome back to everyone who's been with me for however long you've been with me. It's been great to get to know you in the comments here on YouTube and also on Instagram. And if you're not following me on Instagram, you can find me in 2 places. I say this 2 places, but one of them I haven't updated in like 6 months, possibly a year. But I'm going to put them both here in the hopes that someday I'll update it. The first one is Dr_Christy, and that's my main account. I update that. I try to post a picture a day. Sometimes I post a couple pictures. Sometimes I post it every couple days. But that one is active. So if you are on Instagram and not following me, I'd love to have you follow me there. If you are interested in vintage wooden spools and vintage sewing paraphernalia, I have another one, which is the spoolery, which I think will pop up over here. Over here. And that is where I post an homage to vintage wooden spools. And I do actually have some spools to show you today in my haul section, because I have spool ideas that I want to get done like this week. Yeah, this is the channel that embroidery and cross stitch, other textile crafts, and vintage sewing paraphernalia and history, and the history of all those things. So if any of that is interesting to you and you're not subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe and stick around. Oh, I also have giveaway winners for the Nuns Harvesting Fallacies pattern, so we'll talk about that too. But first, I want to do the Know Your Needleworker tag, and this is the Know Your Needleworker tag by Tricia, the Left-Handed Stitcher, and I just Googled it and got it off of a blog. So I'm just going to go through this and, skip over it if you know it already. I'm going to start with my FFO, so when you see me holding up a tree covered in phalluses, then you'll know that I'm done. So the first question is where you live. I live in Mississippi in the United States. It's in technically the southeastern U.S., but it's really kind of south central. And it's right next to Louisiana. It's between Louisiana and Alabama, and like on the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico. So that's where I live. I kind of live in northern Mississippi, and so I'm not near the coast. I'm not near any mountains. It's kind of swampy. It's hot and humid. And I'm here for number 2, which is, what do you do for a living? I'm a history professor. My specialty is medieval European history, in particular the women's access to justice in 14th and 15th century Paris. And I teach at a small university in Mississippi, and that's why I moved here. There, shock of all shocks, not so many jobs available for medieval historians. So when I was offered one, I took it regardless of where it was. This year, starting in August, I took over the chair of my department. So I'm running my department. We're a small department, but we do a lot of things, which means that it's sort of more work for everybody and not as much support as it would be in a larger department. So it's been a lot, folks. It's been a lot. I love my job, and I'm very lucky and privileged to be doing my job because there aren't that many jobs in my field. So getting this job was really great. I met my husband here, which is not on here. I met my husband here. He also works at the university. And yeah, we're just kind of living our best lives. But we're tired, but we're living our best lives. And we're really I don't know. I just feel really lucky. I'm also mentally working on a book. So like I said, I'm a historian, and although my university does not expect research because we are heavy teaching. My number one job is teaching. I still want to write a book. And so I had a sabbatical about 1.5 years ago to take time to write the book, but it wasn't enough time. There was other stuff going on. I think I was exhausted from the pandemic, stuff like that. So I'm hoping to start working on that again. I'll post a video up here if you want to kind of take a look at when I was super hyped up that I was going to finish this book in 3 months. Yeah, it didn't happen, but I'm still thinking about it, and I'm getting excited about it. I'm on the executive board for my regional medieval studies academic organization. And as part of my duties, I just last week read over some papers for a grad student contest. And one of the papers, it was a literature paper, but it was very interesting. And it used this really a new theoretical approach to looking at women's agency in places where it looks like they have no agency. Anyway, it was very cool and it really inspired me. And so I've been kind of thinking about this summer and taking the time to do work on my book this summer and maybe actually get it done in the next 10 years. That would be nice. But, again, my full-time job is not research, so I can do it when I can do it. Do you have any children? I do not have any children. I am child-free. We are not huge children people. Yeah, I'm happily child-free. Do I have any pets? Yes, I do. I have the sweetest good boy puppy, who is not a puppy. He's like 7 now. I'll post a picture of him here. He is delightful. I don't know how else to describe him. He's delightful. I walk him twice a day, every day, and he is delightful and brings me so much joy. And yeah, he's a very good boy. Very good boy. In fact, the reason why I'm recording this so late is because I didn't want to leave him. Because I'm recording in a different building in my art studio, and he is in the house, and I didn't want to leave him, and he doesn't like it in here. So what are your other hobbies besides stitching? Well, I have a lot of hobbies. I have a lot of textile craft hobbies. And those of you who've been with me for any length of time know I was into weaving for a little bit, although that sort of lost its luster. I think it's, for reasons that I think I know. So I'm letting that go. I do a little bit of sewing. Embroidery is my real kind of art form that I really love, although I'm in a cross stitch phase right now. But I think that this summer I've been scheming about my embroidery, freehand embroidery, so that'll come back. I just taught myself how to crochet a little bit, and that's kind of exciting for me, but I haven't really had time. Designing, I design cross stitch patterns, flosstube. I basically have a ton of hobbies. My husband just bought me like a bobbin lace making kit, like tutorial kit. So that's something that I want to get into as well. Lots of things. There are lots of things that I want to do, but they're all kind of surrounding textile arts. I just really love textiles. And I think a lot of it comes from my historical background because I study medieval women, and pre-modern women were always doing something with textiles, right? Like textiles in the pre-modern world were every part of it was done by hand. So when you see people on YouTube who are like spinning yarn and then knitting it or crocheting it into garments and cloth, and the spinning, you're like, oh my goodness, people are doing this. Well, that's like everyone did that. Like all women and girls participated in textile at every level of, every status. All women participated in textile creation because it was so labor intensive. And so I went to a conference, and this is a lot, so please feel free to skip, but I went to a conference when I was still in grad school. It was probably in 2013 or 2014. It was like the best conference I've ever been to in my entire life. It was amazing. And there was a woman there who teaches Viking history. And Viking history has a lot of textile references to it. And so she decided that when she taught this, that she would also teach her students how to spin wool. And this blew my mind because one of the problems that I as a medieval historian have and other pre-modern and non-US historians have is that it's actually very difficult to get students any hands-on activities. So if you do American history, you can go places, right? You can go to a local historical society or local museum and get some form of American history. And living in where I do, which is fairly rural and poor, we don't really have access to pre-modern European history, which is the majority of what I teach. So realizing that I could create these hands-on experiences for students was a little bit mind-blowing for me. And so when I got here, I got a small grant. I bought a bunch of spindles and I taught my students how to spin. Now, I'm not an expert spinner by any means, but putting in that kind of textile labor in the modern day then allows students to really see why in a medieval will, let's say, the person who died is like leaving their bedding to like particularly stating that the bedclothes go to a particular person, because those bedclothes took hundreds of hours of labor to make and were not cheap, and you use them forever and ever. You don't just get rid of stuff like that. And I think in the modern kind of mechanized fast fashion world, we forget that. So anyway, so I'm super into textiles because it's accessible to students historically, right? It allows them to see how people in the past lived hands-on for not too expensive, because I'm also at a very poor school and we cannot be buying all sorts of expensive materials and, manuscripts and stuff like that to show them. So anyway, that was a very long explanation for my other hobbies. And in general, my textile speaks to my history and my history often speaks to my textile art, and my hobbies and my job kind of go together. That's answer to question number 5. What are your other hobbies besides stitching? I think this is going to be a long one. I was thinking it was going to be a short one, but it might be a long one. What is your favorite movie? Okay. I don't have a favorite movie. I don't actually like movies. Now, I like movies. I enjoy movies when I watch them, but I don't actually watch very many movies because the thought of watching a movie is too much for my brain. Especially modern movies are too long for me. I would say, like, if I had to choose a favorite movie, it would be Pride and Prejudice, the Colin Firth, Jennifer Ely version. That's the one I would choose. That movie is one that I can go back to at any point and, just watch over and over again. And I have. So that's a really big one. And there are a couple others that aren't my favorite movies, but for some reason they have stuck with me for a very long time. So things like The Truman Show, which is just this very interesting movie about identity. If you haven't seen it, it's Jim Carrey, but not normal Jim Carrey. It's this really interesting view on like humanity and community and in our sort of current way that we're constantly watched, surveillance. It has just really stuck with me for some reason. I've only ever seen it once, but it's really stuck with me. I don't watch movies very much. I do watch TV, but I'm basically like an 85-year-old woman when it comes to TV. So my favorite TV show, which is number 7, is sort of any cozy mystery. I love cozy mysteries. And I love the classics. I love the Hercule Poirot, the Agatha Christie's. I love Columbo. I love Murder, She Wrote. I love Miss Fisher's Mysteries. I love Death in Paradise. I love sort of like these mostly British cozy mysteries. Some classic, some modern, that follow a formula and they're really comfortable for me. So that's probably my favorite TV shows. Those are the ones I watch all the time. What is your favorite book? Again, I have books that are my favorite books. I have books that I love that I read all the time. I have books that I love that had an enormous impact on my life. So I'm going to give you 3. Maybe 4. I'm going to give you 4. So Pride and Prejudice, again, is probably my favorite. It just is delightful. and I love it, and it makes me happy. On the same vein, Persuasion is very neck and neck with Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion, both those by Jane Austen. But I would say that the book that's had the most impact on my life was The Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. And that I don't remember the name of the books, because when I read them, they were the trilogy was just called The Dragon Riders of Pern. But the first sort of 3 books of the Pern series. And those are really, those literally changed my life, fundamentally changed my life, and are the reason I am where I am now, which is such a weird thing to say, but you have these sort of like moments that are pivotal. In my 8th grade year, so I was 11. No, I wasn't. I was 13. I was 13 in 8th grade. And the last week of class, so in the United States and in my school district, 6th, 7th, and 8th were in the same school. And then 9th grade, you started high school, you went to a different school. So this was like the last week in my school. We were done in social studies, and social studies is like history, geography, ethics, politics, economics, stuff like that. So it was the last week of social studies, and we were done. And so it was a free read week. Now, I hated reading. So I go home and I'm like, I have to read all next week for like this class, which was like an hour a day or something. Maybe, yeah, I think it was an hour a day. And so my stepdad handed me The Dragon Riders of Pern, and it blew my mind. I loved it. I like inhaled this series of books. Then there were like more books in the series, and then there were more books like this. And so that sort of moment reading The Dragon Riders of Pern got me reading sci-fi and fantasy. But what it did is it got me reading, because I actually don't read much sci-fi and fantasy anymore. I read history books that aren't in my field because I love history, and I read cozy mysteries or listen to them. Either one works for me. But for the first 10 years of my, like, I would say from until I entered grad school. So I was from when I was 13 until when I was 23. So 10 years, I read almost exclusively sci-fi fantasy. And I did read some sci-fi, but I'm mostly fantasy, mostly sort of like medieval European inspired fantasy is what I read. And so that really got me thinking about medieval European history. And my stepdad loves medieval European history. And so he and I really started talking about this period in time. And I decided I want to be a historian, and I wanted to do medieval Europe. Anyway, so that's why I am where I am, is because of The Dragon Riders of Pern. Another one that had a profound impact on me was the Lord of the Rings, but also The Hobbit, actually both of those, because I think I read The Hobbit first, and it's just so good. It's kind of a young adult book, and it was just so good. So anyway, those are my books, my favorite books, and the ones that had the most profound impact on me. Favorite music. Oh God, I don't have favorites. I'm not good at favorites. I don't have favorite music. If I had to pick a genre, I would probably say 1990s alternative girl bands, depending on what purpose. But like the thing that brings me joy is listening to girl bands, indie girl bands from the 90s who became mainstream, but like that would be it. Indigo Girls. I love the Indigo Girls so much, but that kind of music. All right. And then finally, what one word best describes you? So I was thinking about this one ahead of time, and normally I think I would say joyful. The word that best describes me is joyful, because I really do try to find the little pieces of joy in everything, if at all possible. I try to take joy in the things around me. When I'm walking my dog, I try to sort of take joy in like the birds and in the way the sun reflects off the clouds. It's like the things around you just sort of bring me joy. And I have moments where I'm walking and I just get this sort of, I don't even know how to describe it, but I just get these sort of chills, and I feel this sort of joyfulness sort of like move through my body. It is like the most amazing feeling, and it happens every once in a while to me. Now, the reason why I hesitated a little bit is because the past month has been really difficult for me with my job, and the past probably 6 months have been difficult with my job. So, but I've been still having those moments, right? So I think that I would still say that. It's just been a lot. The past month has been a lot. So that's the Know Your Needle Workers tag. If you have any questions about me or my life or my work, just ask. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. It may take me a little while to get through the comments. I struggle with comments. I'm trying to be better, but I do sometimes struggle with comments. So if you get a response to me from like 2 months after you posted a comment, I'm just working through them. I promise. I'm trying my best. So if you're still with me after that long conversation, let's get to stitching. So the first thing I have to show is a fully finished object, and that is Nuns Harvesting Phalluses. This is a pattern that I designed. It's the first pattern in my medieval marginalia series of cross stitch patterns, where I take the little drawings in the margins of medieval manuscripts, and they're all going to be a little bit questionable taste, as this one is. I've already picked the next one. My patrons know all about it. I'm so excited. But this is stitched on I believe a 30 count legacy linen. And I'm sending this to my friend Christine, who lives in the Bahamas. And it is fully finished. And the back, what I did was I put just a fabric and then hooped it that way. And then I did a drawstring so that the stitches are protected, and it looks clean, and it has a nice color on the front, through the fabric. And I really like it. So this is done and is going to go off to my friend in, whenever I send it out. And this hoop, this is a squoval hoop, and I got it at Joann Fabrics. It's a DMC hoop. I got it because I thought it would be great to stitch on. It is not great to stitch on, but it's tiny bit too small for this, but otherwise perfect. So like there's one stitch I think that got cut off right here, but I'm not gonna complain. Anyway, Nuns Harvesting Phalluses is done. #FinishItFeb. So like I said, I'm sending this off to my friend in the Bahamas, but I want to stitch my own. Joe from Belushi Stitches and Kelly from Animal Instincts are both starting this pattern on Tuesday, February 14th, and they are joining in on the stitch along together. And so I've decided to join along with them on my stitch along, #low hanging fruit sal, on February 14th, which is in 2 days, on Tuesday. So if you have the pattern, want to start it, haven't started it yet, start it on Tuesday. If you don't have the pattern, want to start it, go grab it. But if you entered in my giveaway last week, I'm going to do that right now, and we will see if you want it. Now, this giveaway is available to anyone who comments. You have to be 18, all those things. And if you haven't bought the pattern, I'll just send you the PDF. If you have already bought the pattern, I will just ask for your purchase number and your order number, and I'll refund your money on Etsy. So you can win it whether you've already bought it or not. So I have it pulled up. 12 comments. And I don't remember where it goes. There we go. Tyra, send me your email address, because I know I don't keep email addresses. So Tyra says, I love your necklace. The very top of the necklace reminds me of that Neapolitan coconut candy bar. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was wearing this really kind of chunky, multi-stranded beaded necklace last week that I was struggling with. So thank you, Tyra. Naughty patterns, I'm in fruit. Good. That was slick. Working fruit in there. The keyword was fruit for the low-hanging fruit sal. Anyway, so Tyra, shoot me a message on Instagram with your email address. And I don't remember if you bought the pattern already, but if you have, I'll refund the money, or I will send you a copy. Okay, good. Now I'm going to show you my new start, because I have a new start. So I mentioned Patreon. I have a Patreon that supports both history and stitching. So I post history content and I post a pattern every month depending on sort of what level you choose to be at. So I just released my February pattern this morning, this afternoon, and it looks like this. It's called February Hearts, and it's based on 2 different motifs that I adjusted, that I sort of redesigned from a 1783 embroidery pattern book. It's in monochrome because I have this great floss. This is from Dying for Cross Stitch, and it's this great floss that's variegated, very variegated. And of course the problem, it's called Impatiens. And of course the problem with highly variegated flosses is that it's kind of hard to stitch with them. It's hard to find things to stitch with them. You can't really replace things on patterns with them, and so you have to find things that you can just do. So I decided that these colors would look best on like a chartreuse, because of course I did. And that's not really showing the color. It is a very sort of mustardy, chartreusey color. Yeah, that makes it look more butter. It's called Butter Crunch by Needle Bling Designs. This is 16 count. Anyway, I decided that this would all look good. And so I have a start on that. And it's just a little heart in the middle. I love it. I'm very excited. So if you want to stitch this, head on over to my Patreon. It's in the description box below, and you can get this and also my January one until the end of the month. This one will be up until March 31st. January will be going away on February 28th. Speaking of which, I've been working on that one. So the January pattern of the month was this one called January Hairs. And I am stitching it on this unnamed 14 count Aida. And this is my next Finish It February, Finish It Feb, hashtag Finish It Feb. And I'm stitching it, 2/1 full cross on 14 count Aida. I'm pretty sure I just got this Aida as a scrap from a needle workshop outside of Kansas City, Missouri last year. But I love it. I love it. This is taken from 3 different motifs from the 16th and 18th centuries. And like I said, this will be available on my Patreon until the 28th of February. So if you like this pattern or my February pattern, go feel free to sign up for my Patreon, and you'll get some history stuff too if you like history. And this is just being stitched in the called for, which are different golds. 783, 728, and 780. So 780, 783, 728. I'm behind, but have been working on my temperature pattern. And this is Temperature Birds that I designed. And I am stitching this on April Showers 32 count Lugana by Be Stitch Me. And I'm almost done with January. So close to being done with January. I usually work on this with my mom on Sunday nights. So I'm going to finish January tonight and then finish the February line at least. That's my goal. And then I can start on the birds for February, afterwards, basically. But that's the plan. So that is my temperature cross stitch, and you can find this in my Etsy shop down below if you're interested in stitching temperature birds, or also temperature bookshelves. Those are also there too, and temperature space invaders, among other things. My next whip is on the same fabric as my birds. Sorry, it's from a magazine and I just closed the magazine. And it is my Voluptuous Mermaids, which I love so much. Oh my God, I love them. And this is part of the Fat Mermaid Sal, hashtag Fat Mermaid Sal, that I'm doing with Nadine of Nads X Stitch. And I have decided that I'm going to stitch a bunch of these. My chair is squeaking. I've decided that I'm going to stitch a bunch of these. And the first one I'm stitching, I'm doing tiny. So it's 32 count. I'm doing it 1/1 because I want it to be a brooch. And this is where I am. That's my tiny little start. But when I was looking at the pattern, I'm actually, it's not like I'm like almost done at all, But I'm doing this one here, and I'm already to this point here. I've done this gold here. So that is where I am, like right there. So that's been really fun. It's pretty slow going though, because it is 1/1, and they are tiny, tiny stitches. So I'm doing the maroon one, but I'm doing it in turquoises. Whew. Look very red, that white balance. There we go. There we go. Yeah, so other than the, I'm changing the fin, like the tail, to be turquoise, and the hair I'm going to make dark brown. Because my normal hair is dark brown, I'm just having a red moment. But this won't last very long. It's way a lot of upkeep. So that is that. So my final whip to show you is my Heaven and Earth design, my HAED. And this is what it's going to look like. And I am stitching this 2/1 on a 20 count ivory aida that I got I got a gift certificate for 123 Stitch from Carrie at Carrie and Stitchins for, I think, for her 1,000 subscriber giveaway, which was a while ago now. If I can find a picture, this is where it is last time. And here I am now, today. So I have been working down at the bottom, in particular on this dress here. So this is the lady. Well, this is the unicorn right here. This is the lady, the titular lady, right? The lady in the title. And this is her lady in waiting. And basically I'm kind of bouncing around. I have done some filling in work up here, but you would never notice. So I'm hoping that you can see a difference in this area. If I can find a picture, I'll show you. So this is my largest project. I'm super behind on it. I had hoped to have like at 20% done a year, and I think I'm at 16, maybe 16%. I'll look it up and put it right here where I am, but I think I'm at less than 16%, but I think I'm above 15.5%. When I started this and made those plans, I wasn't the chair of my department, you know, but it's coming along, right? It's coming along. And I stitch cross country, not wildly cross country, but definitely cross country. And I stitch in hand. So I just kind of go all over the place wherever I feel like going. I don't have to worry about moving Q snaps and stuff like that. So that is my Lady and Unicorn from Heaven and Earth Design. And I keep it in the bag I got from Jody at Trixie Tricycle, who I will talk about again later. And of course it's in the called for DMC because it's a HAED. And I'm super excited because I have been using my Book of Days. Now, if you were here last time, you might remember that I was really struggling with my Book of Days because it's large and very soft covered. And I was struggling to like get it out and write in it. Well, I've fixed that. I said I was going to make a cover. I kind of want to wait for the suspense because one of the things that I wanted to do, I really like the pictures on the front cover because the picture on the front cover is a bobbin lace. And so I wanted to see how I could make a hardbound cover, but also still be able to see the bobbin lace. And so I decided to make an acrylic cover. I basically made an acrylic folder out of 2 sheets of acrylic, and this is 9x12 acrylic. I didn't have to cut it. This is cut as it was that I got from Michael's. And then I took some vinyl and I bound it in vinyl and glued it together. And then the inside pockets are also glued in vinyl. And so it's super messy. Like the glue is really messy, but it works so well. It works so well. You know, like I can write on it. It's hard. It's hard. It's a hard surface. When I do my, my mermaids, I have a working copy that's paper. And I just put it on this and I can mark it off. It's amazing. And if we look at February, I've actually been filling in my weeks. Now there are some days I haven't done any stitching, but I've been filling in what I've been doing. I love this so much. Some days I look at myself and I'm like, Christy, you're kind of a genius. Some days I choke on my own spit, but some days I make an acrylic folder that I can reuse over and over and over again. And I think, man, you're smart. You're really smart. That's another thing I finished this week that I forgot to show you. So let's talk about plans. I do want to work on all my whips. I want to send out all of my Flossmas prizes, get them out tomorrow. I'm going to work on those later on this afternoon or this evening after I do some reading for work. I want to finish my rabbits. Oh, so I do want to explain what happened with Finish It February. So I had this whole idea. I was going to write down projects on little pieces of paper, put them in here, pick them out, and then spend an hour working on them to finish. That, with how my month is going, that has gone by the wayside. So now what I'm doing is sort of just picking a particular thing and like trying to finish it and like focusing on that. So I finished my Nuns Harvesting Phalluses, so that's fully finished. I can send that out. I finished something for a friend of mine, a spool related thing for a friend of mine. That's finished. The next thing I want to finish is my January hairs. I'm pretty close to finishing that. I'm at like 80 something %. So that I think I can finish this week. That'll feel really good. So that's kind of how I'm working it. That's kind of how I'm working Finish It Feb. And I am using the hashtag Finish It Feb when I post about those projects. Let's talk about haul and stitchy kindness. So my stitchy kindness for the week is that I have a local friend who is a stitcher as well and a crafter. And so we hang out probably 2 Saturdays a month, depending on our schedules, at our local beer garden / pizza place, and we stitch together Saturdays like lunchtime. It's usually pretty dead at that point. So we call it the Granny Craft Club because we do our granny crafts there. So she had mentioned a couple weeks ago, a month ago, that she had these cool little like zipper pouches that she got at Target for really cheap, and she bought a ton of them, and she's never going to work on them, but she thought they'd be great for cross stitch. Like, heck yeah, they would be. So she brought me one. It's just a plain, bag, but it has holes in it, so I can do cross stitch. So I think what I'm going to do is at some point I'm going to take one of my knickknacks or a series of knickknacks. I'm feeling like the dinosaurs or maybe Space Invaders. Not quite sure which one, but I feel like I want to put something on here from my knickknack expansion pack, and that would be really fun. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, for my temperature patterns, I also have like little knickknacks. You can like switch out the knickknacks. They're also in my Etsy shop, which is linked down below. This isn't a recent purchase, but when I was visiting my family for Christmas, I went to Target, which is kind of like an upscale, Walmart. I don't know what it would be in other places, but they have stuff from Marks and Spencer's in the UK. And this was a tin. It is a tin of like chocolate cookies or whatever. And so I bought it for the tin because like, look at this tin. Is that not like completely gorgeous? And I got it to store things in. And what I've decided to store in it are my lace making bobbins, because my materials, not my materials, but my directions and my bobbins all fit in here. And it's so pretty. So that makes me very happy that I did that this week, or the past 2 weeks anyway. So I mentioned Jody from Trixie Tricycle. I'll link to her down below because she's the one who gave me the thriller bag that my Heaven and Earth design is in. Well, back in January, she launched a fabric company called Cedar River Linen and Design. And I decided to wait until after the first rush to place my order. And I got 2 pieces of fabric. So I got this, and they're neutral and very lightly variegated. So this is called Overcast. I got a 36 count Overcast, and it's just a very nice neutral linen. And I'm going to use this for my hashtag low hanging fruit Sal, because I want to find It smells very good. I want to find something that all my medieval marginalia can go on and will look nice on and won't be too big, because the 30 count's quite large. So we're going to try 36 count, see how I like that. I'm going to stitch a 2 over 2, probably. At least I'm going to stitch it over 2, whether it's 2 over 2 or not, I don't know, but I'm going to stitch it over 2. But I just think that's a really nice kind of parchmenty, it's like a warmish parchmenty kind of color. The other, well, I wanted her green. She had this amazing green, but it was sold out. But I also really loved this like terracotta color, which is called Red Cedar. And it's showing up like, I see the modeling, that kind of gold mustardy modeling, much more in the camera than in person, and it's very washed out. Yeah, and I just can't get it to not be washed out, but it is terracotta salmon. It's a rich color with a little bit of like goldy, orangey modeling. It looks very different from what you're seeing. And I got this just for my stash because I thought it was beautiful. And I got this. I got a 40 count. I just started using non-Aida, like, well, in fact, the Nuns Harvesting Phalluses was the first time I'd ever stitched on anything that wasn't Aida. It is a 30 count. And now I have a 36 count and a 40 count. And I'm doing 1 over 1 on 32 count. Who the heck am I? That's what I want to know. So I got those from Jody over at Cedar River Linen and Design. I'll post a link down below to that as well. The last thing I got is some spools. Now you may be thinking, those of you who know me are thinking, Christy, really? You bought more spools? Yes, I did. They are beautiful. And I have a plan. I have a plan. Not for all of them, but I have a plan. But I love these. Sorry about the crinkling. I love these because they're stamped, as opposed to having a paper on the top. Because what I plan on doing, I cut off the ends and I make things out of the ends. I make earrings and necklaces and scissors fobs and zipper pulls. And I'm going to try and make buttons. So for Christmas, my husband got me a beautiful winter coat, and it's a Mississippi winter coat, but one of the buttons fell off. And this is just sort of a simple metal button. No personality at all. But then I realized that this button is basically the same size as a spool end. So I'm going to take these spools, I'm going to take 4 of them, cut off the ends, and make them into buttons. So I'm trying to figure out how to make that happen, considering there's there's only one hole in the middle. I have an idea. I just need to see if I can make it work. They do have button shanks, but I don't know that they're big enough to fit. Like, they'd have to be, they'd have to sort of fit the spool into it. I don't know that they're big enough. So I have an idea. We'll see if it works. But that's why I got these. It's actually very hard to find really pretty spools. In fact, there's like a purple one. Where's the purple one? Look, there's like a purple one. And two-tone. I mean, they're beautiful. Even if you don't like spools, you have to admit those are pretty fantastic. So I got them. So I think that is it from me. Don't forget, on Tuesday, we have the hashtag low hanging fruit sale. We're in the middle of the hashtag Fat Mermaid sale. I'm making good progress on my craft room organization. It's not done yet, but I can use it again, which is nice. Work has been really difficult. I'm not going to go into a huge life update just because I feel like I've been talking a lot about that, but it's been very difficult. I have 2 really big events happening in February. One is next Friday and one is the Saturday afterwards, the 25th. I'm panicking a little bit, but I'm hoping that in March, that'll be better. I'm hopeful that in March. That'll be better. So yeah, I'm just going to really just try and kind of push through and make it through the month of February. And then there'll be a whole other stack of things to do, but at least at least other people won't be relying on me as much. And that's what stresses me out. I really stress out about like disappointing people and not being as good as I want to be. So that is all I have to say to you. And I'm at about an hour. Now there's a lot that's going to be cut out of this because I kind of got up and got things and stuff like that I'm going to cut out. But this is really long. This is way longer than normal. So I hope that you've stuck with me. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope to be here again next weekend, but I can't guarantee it. But I really, really hope that I will be. And I hope to see you then. But if nothing else, I hope you have a great stitchy week. Please take good care of yourselves and have a good one. Bye.